Hi, and welcome to the Stage 22 About the Language 1 review, in which we'll talk about perfect active or deponent participles. Now, in Stage 21, we met the perfect passive participle. And as a review, participles are verbal adjectives. Perfect passive participles can be translated having been blanked. And perfect passive participles are the fourth principal part of the verb. So, for example, porto, portare, portavi, portatus. That's the fourth principal part of porto. And it can be translated having been carried. Now, in this stage, we're going to introduce what this book calls a perfect active participle, but most people will call a perfect deponent participle. And we'll learn more about deponents in general later. Now, perfect active or perfect deponent participles are also verbal adjectives, like all participles, and they can be translated having blanked. Okay, so perfect passive participles having been blanked because they're passive. Perfect active participles having blanked. Now, most verbs have perfect passive participles, but there are a few verbs called deponent verbs that have these perfect active or deponent participles instead. Verbs don't have both. They either have a perfect passive participle, that's most verbs, or they have a perfect active or deponent participle. So let's take a look at this vocab checklist from stage 22 to get an idea about how you can tell whether a verb has a perfect active, deponent participle, or a perfect passive participle. So let's look at the principal parts of decipio first. Decipio, decipere, decapi, deceptus, deceive or trick. All right, so it's got four principal parts: decipio, decipere, decapi, deceptus. Deceptus is the fourth principal part. That's the perfect passive participle. Having been deceived, having been tricked. Okay, let's look at one more. Fundo, fundere, fudi fusus, to pour. Fusus is the fourth principal part, the perfect passive participle, having been poured. Okay, it's going to be the same for iacto, iactatus, having been thrown. Incipio, inceptus, having been begun. Now let's take a look at adeptus and ingressus. These are perfect active participles, perfect deponent participles. And notice they just give them to you by themselves right now in the checklist. And they have a meaning like having received, having obtained, having entered. Those are perfect active or perfect deponent participles. Okay, and notice they give you the masculine nominative singular, the feminine nominative singular, the neuter nominative singular. Okay, so the perfect active or deponent participle, just like the perfect passive participle, takes first or second declension endings. It works like servus in the masculine, like puella in the feminine, like templum in the neuter. So here's a chart of just the singular of the perfect active or deponent participle agressus, aggressa, aggressum, having gone out, having left. Okay, and you can see like servus in the masculine, like templum in the neuter. So those are all second declension, masculine or neuter endings, like puella in the feminine, first declension endings. Look at the plural, like servus in the masculine, like templum in the neuter, like puella in the feminine. And there's the singular and the plural together for you on one page. So again, it works exactly like a perfect passive participle. You just have to know from studying the vocab checklists that this is a perfect active or deponent participle and it has active meaning, having gone out.